Last year, I made quite a few videos on cycling accessories that I buy or that I would recommend. You can find those videos down below in the description if you want to check them out. Well, let's do the opposite today. Here are 11 cycling accessories that I personally would never buy again. The first product on my list is an R-Saver. Well, I haven't got one here in person anymore, but you'll see a picture on screen now. And I've tried these in the past and I've seen lots of people with them on, but the honest truth is I don't think they work that well. They protect your ass, but not the person behind you. And to be honest, whenever I've tried to get them on, every single saddle that I've personally tried to use them on, they've never sat on well. Basically, they've fallen off 5-10 kilometers into the ride. Maybe I'm not putting them in properly, but they're just kind of flimsy plastic, fall out really easily, and don't actually stop that much spray apart from, stopping your own butt from getting wet. Personally, for winter riding, I would go for a proper kind of mud guard on the bike, or like SKS race blades. They do basically some clip-on ones that work really well, but I would make sure that your paint is hard enough, otherwise they will start to wear some of the paint off the bike a little bit. So make sure you have a good paint job if you're going to put those ones on. Next up is soft tyre levers. You need to buy ones that are really, really strong. Normally, the cheaper ones that you get when you buy those packages or those soft black plastic ones, you can see them. If you can bend them with your finger, they're not strong enough. I always buy these ones from Park Tool. You get 3 of them for like £2.50, maybe £3.50. They stick together and they just work really, really well. There are lots of other options out there. Muc-Off do some wider, strong ones. Silca do some really strong like metal ones. But honestly, if you're taking a tyre off, you just need a tyre lever that's going to be strong enough to resist the tyre, basically. Coming up next on my list is insulated water bottles. Now, these Camelback bottles as a whole are actually really good, but as you can see there, I've got the insulated versions. It's got like another liner inside, so I guess it tries to trap air outside around the bottle a little bit. The honest truth is, I bought it for summer like years ago and I thought I'd put like ice cubes and stuff in there. To be quite honest, the ice cubes last about 10 minutes longer and that's it. When you're going out for even a 1, 2, 3, 4 hour ride, doesn't matter. I've just noticed they haven't made any difference and they don't really keep the water cold. So yeah, save your money and just buy normal bottles. The water gets just as warm, just as quick. The next thing that I wouldn't recommend buying is loose fitting cycling jerseys. A lot of people, when you're first getting into the sport, you tend to buy your jerseys maybe one size too big. You don't want that kind of skin tight look. And this was me back in the day as well. But the honest truth is, it just means you're gonna buy again, because the more you get into the sport, the better fitting you're going to want your jerseys to be. Not only is it quite significantly aerodynamically faster to have a tighter fitting jersey, I think it looks better on the bike, and I think for me, it feels more comfortable as well. So yeah, skip going for the slightly baggier look, especially if you're just getting into the sport. Just go for the tight fitting ones. I promise you, it will stop you from buying another jersey in the future. Coming up next on my list is ceramic coatings for your paint and stuff like that. Now, I know Ollie from GCN seems to recommend these. He's like, oh, my bike doesn't get as dirty as quickly. But I've personally tried a few. I've tried like the Muc-Off After Bike Care. I've tried the Silca Special Protective Wax. I'll put an image on screen, which one that is. And I've also tried the G-Technique ones. And to be totally honest with you, my bike gets dirty just as quickly. It might, stop your bike from getting a little bit dirty initially, but once you get past 20, 30K on a dirty, muddy ride and stuff like that, you still kind of have to wash your bike anyway. So I don't actually use them anymore. I can see some kind of benefits to them. For example, if you've got mud on there like I have on my bike right now, maybe if you accidentally wipe it or brush it or whatever, you might get micro scratches in the paint by rubbing the dirt on top. It might help protect from that a little bit, but to be totally honest, yeah, your bike gets dirty just as quickly. This next one might be quite controversial, I'll find out in the comments later, but that is CO2. Now, most of you probably know what these are, but if you don't, basically, you screw this CO2 canister onto here, you release the air, and it releases very quickly, and it pumps up your tyre basically. Very fast and efficient way to re-pump up your tyre if you got a puncture or something. But this is 2026. We now have electric mini pumps. And for me, these are vastly superior to the CO2. Not only do they weigh about the same, they also take up a very similar amount of space in your pocket or saddlebag. They also don't freeze your bloody fingers off when you use them. And you get 3 to 4 tyres pumped out of this rather than just one. So to be honest, I only use these now. I don't even take the little mini hand pumps with me. I just use electric. With all of that being said, I think there is kind of one benefit to these. If you've had to unseat your tubeless tyre, this will reseat your tubeless tyre up again for you. It just might make that initial seating a little bit easier, whereas the airflow from one of these might not be fast enough. But nowadays, with wider wheels and wider tyres, generally not the case. Finally, I don't really use tubeless unless it's on my time trial bike. I only use TPU tubes nowadays. Well, speaking of TPU tubes, that brings me right on to the next thing. I would never buy again a butyl inner tube. I only personally run tubeless, which is on my race bikes like my time trial bike, or TPU inner tubes. There's practically zero reasons for these now. First of all, you can fit 3 of these in your saddlebag for 1 butyl inner tube. Not only that, they're practically 1/3 the weight of these as well. So they weigh exactly the same. 3 of these weighs exactly the same as 1 of these. Also, now that they're in your tyre, because it's one of the furthest points around the outside of the rim, you can actually feel the weight difference in these. It makes the wheel feel a little bit snappier, a little bit sharper. The rolling resistance of TPU tubes is much lower than a butyl inner tube. I mean, you're talking like 3 to 5 watts per tyre. It's massive. And finally, with this company such as Ride Now, you get some very expensive ones like Pirelli and Silca and stuff. But these Ride Now ones cost exactly the same as a butyl inner tube as well. So why would you buy that when you can just buy that? In the past, these used to be less reliable. I've got quite a lot of comments on some previous videos about it. But nowadays I hear a lot less about the reliability. And I think personally in my life, I've only ever had about 2 dud ones out of, I don't know, like 30 TPU inner tubes. I've been running them for like 4 years. And now finally they come with metal valves. So you can now remove the valve core if you really want to. So yeah, butyl, you're dead. Next up is action cameras. Yeah, you heard me right. I don't think they're very useful. The only time you actually end up using them when you have them is if you decide you want to do a very specific shot. You have to go out knowing what you want to capture. If you just stick it on the front of your bike and just think that, oh, this descent is gonna look really cool and stuff, it's not. You have hours of footage of your bike ride that you're never gonna look at again. Some people use it for racing, which can be cool to catch like lots of action moments and the final sprints and stuff. Then it's really good. But like I said, you have to have a specific reason to buy it, a specific shot that you want to get. If not, they're practically useless. And not only that, they're pretty damn expensive as well. So you can spend a lot of money for something that you're actually never gonna use. Me personally, I don't have one anymore. Like otherwise I'll have it on video now. So yeah, basically before you go buy one, just think, what shots am I actually going to get? And the truth is, you could probably capture 95% of what you're going to on the action cameras on your phone. Slow tires. I would never buy slow tires again. The information is out there and easily accessible. You've got bike rolling resistance, I'll put it in the link below, and also Aerocoach has done lots of data and testing as well, also linked again below. But basically, when you buy faster tires, they're going to be saving you energy at all times. Not only that, they're usually a little bit more supple, so they tend to be slightly more comfortable. And finally, if they have enough life left in them, you don't really puncture that often either. Personally, I would stick to these big 3, the Continental GP5000s, the Vittoria Corsa Pros, and finally the Pirelli P0 Races. These are some of the fastest tyres that you can get on the market. The puncture resistance is generally pretty good, and because they're a race tyre, they tend to be a bit stickier in the corners as well. Everything else, some of the tyres might be a little bit cheaper, but is there really much use for them? No, just go for the faster stuff personally. There are maybe some cases where you might choose a different tyre. For example, like I do run the Pirelli 4Season tyre on my winter bike. Especially here in the UK, it does actually help with a little bit of puncture resistance and a little bit better wet grip as well. They also warm up faster in the wet, but slightly slow tyre. But generally speaking, for most people, especially because we do most of our riding in the summer, just get the faster tyres out there. Finally, one last thing to say, they do of course have like time trial tyres out there, like the GP5000 TTTR or the Vittoria Corsa Pro Speed. These tyres are even faster, but they literally have zero puncture resistance. So unless you're time trialing or racing on them, I'll probably leave those ones. Finally, number 10 on my list is wet lubricants. I'd never personally buy these anymore, to be honest. Now that we have waxed chains, which are vastly superior for chain life longevity, speed, like resistance through the chain, and finally, my favorite part about waxed chain is cleanliness. So yeah, to be honest, I'll personally never go back to a wet or oil-based lubricant. They're just too dirty, too messy, and require too much cleaning. If you haven't waxed your chain yet, I promise it's one of the best upgrades that you can do. Again, number of videos linked on screen here. Even here in the UK winters, I mean, you can see just how filthy my bike is. The chain itself is absolutely bone dry and perfectly clean. And that's just on a normal wax chain. Look how filthy that thing is. I can promise you I would not be doing that with a wet lubricant there. Now, with that being said, there are maybe some reasons you would buy a wet lubricant. First of all, if you're a commuter or you do lots and lots of deep winter riding like here in the UK where your bike looks like that every single day, then the wet lubricant will very likely prevent a little bit of rust on the chain, whereas if you've had a wet ride, I would dry off your chain, just grab a microfiber cloth and run it over the chain. But yeah, if you want to be a little bit lazy on that front, maybe I'd recommend a wet lube. But if you're a summer rider like me, and in winter you practically do all of your training indoors, like me again, then yeah, I would never use a wet lubricant again. Okay guys, there is my list of 10 cycling products I would personally never buy again. I'm sure there's a few controversial things on there that might be different for you in different situations, but they're very personal for me and my scenarios and situations basically. Please put some more suggestions in the comments below. If I get enough good ones, I'll make another video on it. As usual, if you have any specific questions, you can put them down below. I reply to most things. Sorry, I'm still catching up on a lot of them from the last video. Or you can find me over here on Instagram, where you can just follow my daily shenanigans or message me privately there too. But other than that, I've been Jason, this has been Cycling Unboxed, and I'll see you in another video.